Welcome, everyone, to another Conversations in the Void. I am Graveyard, your host, as always, and joined by my Oscar producer, Salem, who's always in chat. Say hi to Salem. He loves to hear from each and every one of you. Now, I had the privilege of speaking to this gentleman a couple weeks ago on another show that we do called Distance Nerding, but I'm excited to have him here in the Void. So please welcome actor, producer, director, with works including A Shared Secret, Miss Virginia, and Suspended Disbelief. Please welcome to the Void, Brian Elliott.
Hey, thanks for having me, Graveyard. Appreciate it.
Oh, no problem, man. Like I said, it's been a couple weeks. How have things been for you?
Pretty good. I know the last time we talked, we had the gamut of going over a little bit of everything while putting together some Legos. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Legos is one of those hobbies my wife will not let me have because I have too many as they are.
Understood.
My kids, on their hand, tons of Legos, all in their room. So,
Okay. Yeah.
oh
Oh
man,
man.
but without further ado, let's get to know you a little bit, and then we'll go into the meat and potatoes of our show here. So,
Sure.
Brian, how did you really get into the world of acting?
Well, basically, I began my acting career in '98. There was a film company that came to my high school. They wanted to shoot a short film for the county, for the Crime Solvers division of the police department.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically held an audition. I was in a English class, and when they ask you to read, they want you to read out loud, and I kind of got into it and kind of put my little swag on the characters, and brought it to life a little bit. And he was like, "Look, man, you have something there. Why don't you go out for the short film audition and see what you can do with it?" So I went out. It was my very first ever audition, and I got the part, and basically did that, and I caught the bug since, man. Caught the bug. That's what happened. I caught the bug in '98.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
was there any inclination of you being in front of the camera or in front of people other than your reading? Like, did you ever have like other things like you like to be, looked at? I guess attention given to.
Well, at the time I was playing high school football, so Friday Night Lights,
Hmm.
being a quarterback, and it was one of those things where attention was given because of the position, and yeah, so I kind of transitioned from that into acting. I was like, if I can get out there and perform in front of maybe a couple thousand people, I think I can do this on stage or in front of a camera with no problem.
Yeah, I mean that has to help, but especially with your mind being the game, you are being watched by your town and everything too. You know,
Yeah.
did you
Yep.
ever have to do like interviews at that point in time, and you were able to just talk naturally?
I never had an on-camera interview at that point. I think my very first interview came in 2013, and that was because we had did a TV show called Shotgun Mythos, which was
Hmm.
shot in West Virginia and was produced by a gentleman named Clint Gage from Two Bits Productions. And that show ended up getting distributed on DigiNet TV, like Cryptic TV,
Hmm.
like how they got Ion and Smart TV and all those kind of things.
Right.
Star TV, I'm sorry. And so it was on the DigiNet channel. They shot 2 seasons of it. I had a guest starring role, and when they had the press run, I had the opportunity of being interviewed by the West Virginia paper. So that was my very first interview. So that was actually 11 years ago, and ever since I kind of want to trickle more into it because, as you know, once you get hired onto these bigger projects, they want to
Hmm.
they want to hire people who can actually interact with the media and is not afraid to do an interview or any of that nature. So, but
Right.
yeah. So, but back in high school, no, no, I, no. I think the closest I came from outside of Friday Night Light footage on the news was I think they had brought the camera crew to a football camp. I think at the time that we were doing during the summer of my junior year, and they caught me on camera or something like that. But I never got interviewed, so it was what it was.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now
Yeah.
with changing from did you continue football after high school as well?
I did it. I had letters of interest from schools such as Princeton and Rutgers, and several Division II and III schools. But I think, well, I had an injury at my senior year, so that kind of derailed that, and it kind of led me into trying to pursue acting as a serious profession. Um, and after that '98 short film, I did some theater in Northern Virginia. Uh, my first stage play was of Mice and Men, and I played the character
Oh,
Crooks.
uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure you know that story from school. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was required reading for everybody. But I got to play Crooks. He was an older gentleman in the story, and they put makeup on me, and I had to get my body into character and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. So yeah,
Now, did you find it any different going into theater from where you're already at from that short film?
yeah. I had to learn how to project.
Hmm.
I had to learn how to move on stage. Um, those were two of the main things that I had never done before. So actually being in front of people live, I had to memorize my lines, because you don't get a redo on in live theater.
Right.
So that was new to me too. And you got to think prior to that play, the only thing I had done was that short film. So it was just like, they kind of throw me in the water. So that was pretty cool though. I got the hold of it and I got the hang of it, and it just went on from there. So I never really had a problem with memorization sense or stage fright or anything like that. So it's pretty cool.
That's really key, especially like you said with theater being live. Is you said you don't get do overs, and I worked the theater in high school myself. So I was the
Mhm.
house manager. I learned lights. I learned sound. I built sets. I did acting in non-singing roles just because
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm not gonna say it's not for the faint of heart, but it takes a little bit of courage and muster to get up there and actually want to be in front of folks and
Mhm.
you know put on another character. So it takes a little gumption. So yeah,
Right.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
singing could never do.
Right.
If you needed that dead body on the stage, I was your guy for that. But
and therefore we have graveyard.
exactly. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, and stage fighting. I really enjoyed stage fighting as well, just because it was
Okay.
fun. But
Yeah. Yeah.
now, how did
Man.
you, so obviously with theater, you're really projecting out towards the audience, and
Mhm.
but with film and TV, the camera is the audience. If you don't look directly at it, unless you're
Right.
told to,
Unless you're
with the
breaking the fourth wall. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So with your theater work, did you find it difficult to go into in front of a camera and then have to kind of like look past the camera?
No, because prior to seriously getting into um film work, I had taken some classes. So they
Hmm.
gave me the ins and outs on how to frame, look, uh, lower my voice a little bit, how to react to the other person, you know, things that are small techniques that make it look natural while you're on camera. So I never really had that kind of issue. But it was about, having a mic right over your head and it's like lower your voice a little bit. you already have a you already have a big voice, so just lower it a little bit. So
Hmm.
that was probably the biggest thing that I had to pay attention to.
Yeah, yeah, it's very different. With some of the stuff I've done a lot of found footage, independent horror stuff. But I was on someone's set that had a boom mic, that had a cast of 25 people there, and just doing the
Hmm.
same thing over and over and over, but from different
Yeah.
angles. It
Hmm.
was a big difference for me.
Yeah, and you might have somebody who wants to get a lot of takes for one scene, and they
Hmm.
got to shoot it from three different angles. You got the close up, you got the over the shoulder, you may have the parallel shot, you may have a far away shot, so and you got to think you got to do the same lines just at a different angle, and you got to get the lines right so they have a good take. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's still work now. I don't want to give anybody the impression that it's not as it's easier than stage. It's not so to speak. So it kind of carries each one kind of carries its own pros and cons when it
Hmm.
comes to that. So yeah.
Now, do you still do stage work?
Um, the last thing I did was dinner theater. Uh, that was kind of just something for fun.
Hmm.
Um, but prior to that, the last stage play I did was held at a community college. This was maybe, gosh, 17 years ago. So, and then you got to think from that point on, I had done a lot of film work. But my last stage play was 17 years ago. It was called Grey Ghost, and I had to play the. I want to say it was based on a Civil War story.
Okay.
Was a character named Aaron Burton. I think that was the one I played, but it was had something to do with a Civil War story and it had to do with a general. But it's been 17 years. But yeah, so I, we held that at a community college, and um, I had the second to lead role, so it was pretty cool. Um, and I was probably what 25,
Hmm.
and I had gotten back from LA and was still trying to figure out how I want to pursue acting. I hadn't got my union status yet, and
Mm.
I needed to get my resume together. Still get some more roles under my belt. So that theater play, yeah, it helped progress me along a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's something I personally couldn't do just because I like to be, I'm in front of the camera a lot too, but I like being
Mhm.
behind the scenes a lot more too. I find that
Yeah,
more interesting. I always have,
yeah. And what's
you know.
crazy is I was stating on Facebook the other day. I was like, look, the way Hollywood is going now, um, you'll start to see a lot more DIYers.
Hmm.
If you're talking about getting into Hollywood and you want to be an actor or actress and you hope somebody puts you in their project, I mean, honestly, from what I know as a SAG member, is that a lot of the money's being made. You got to be an A-lister, producer, director, or writer, because everybody else. I mean, I think it was what the accountant too. They're making now with a $200 million budget. They paid Ben Affleck like $50 million, and everybody else is like working for scale. So
Right.
it's just like one of those things where it's like if you're not doing it yourself, either producing or directing, you got a long road ahead of you to
Hmm.
to get to that to get to a place or position in Hollywood where you can live off of it because they know 80% of actors don't make the pension to help. So it's a tough road, and we're talking about $26,000 with union work, and you guys say 80 to 84% of people aren't doing it. So yeah, it's definitely a DIY situation when it comes to
Right.
making your own projects in order to make some kind of income from it. So I salute you for directing and putting your own projects out there,
Well, I mean, yes, I will throw myself in there as well, just because I like to have
man.
my face, really the beard in it, but
Yeah.
face doesn't matter. The
Yeah.
beard's all important.
Okay.
Um, so, I mean, what do you think? We talked about this briefly, but what do you think a misconception about acting is? Because we talked about before that how much work you have to do auditions nowadays.
Yeah. It's a lot of work now. Like I said, it's about DIY now. You have to be able to shoot your own self tapes now. Nobody's really bringing anybody into the room anymore.
Hmm.
If they're having a casting call for a TV show or movie and, they want you to audition, you have to have a camera set up. You have to have a solid background on green screen. Um, you have to have good lighting. You got to have a reader.
Hmm.
You gotta put all that together. It's no longer just going to the casting director's office and reading your script. You have to put all that together now. Excuse me. So you have to be a little bit of fortuitous when it comes to your career now. So
Right.
yeah, you gotta put all that together to submit something with a couple other 100 people.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was speaking to another independent horror filmmaker who's just, I think, New York area, and he's talking about for his small budget movie, he had 2,000 people audition.
Wow. Are you kidding me?
I'm just like
That's
that.
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome for him.
Oh, we lost him. Oh, we lost
That
you there.
I got you. Yeah, that lets me know right there that um the field is a little crowded.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Now, but if you're talking about putting on your own projects, that's great. But if you're talking about being seen as an actor or actress, that's a lot. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a non-union project. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's like that for non-union, and I think what it is for union is like for union projects, you'll find thousands of submissions and hundreds of auditions, and he's getting 2,000 for a non-union. That's a lot of people wanting to be stars. Man. That's just the level of competition that you're dealing with if you do want to step into this arena. And
Right.
why I say that is because, like I said, you got people who've been A-listers for 10 or 20 years making the big bank, and the new people coming in have that they have to get paid scale
Hmm.
because if you don't take it, somebody else will. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it. You hope to get your name out there enough to move a vehicle a little bit, but you got to get your name out there. That's like being put in a good project. Now, yeah, so it's. I mean, you telling me that just blew my mind, but that's crazy. But good for
Yeah.
him though.
Yeah. I was absolutely blown away, and this is his only second film that he's done too.
Yeah,
And I'm
I
just,
hope it turns out good.
yeah. I'm excited. He's a friend of the show, but
Okay.
I mean, that kind of is a blessing and a curse at this point in time, right? Because now
Mhm.
with not having those rooms and waiting in line and having to get there and doing it yourself, that means you have more of a pool to pull from, but it's also then harder, I would think, to get noticed.
It is harder to get noticed, and that's where the DIY comes in because if you could put together a script, a production team, and you want to star in your film, that's one step closer to being out there with you as the lead or as a supporting, and you reaping the benefits.
Hmm.
Um, now the competition's so thick, man. It's out there now. Like I think a lot of people think because the internet is available, and which it is a lot more platforms with distribution, that there's a lot more money in it, and that's not the case. There's a lot more attention, but then you gotta weed through the other projects that are thinking just like you, and you got to get the marketing together to get the eyeballs on the project. So there's that too. Now, if you're talking about an era where to build your resume, this is an excellent era to build your resume. I will agree with that. Like if if there's 30 streaming platforms and you feel like you can get on one of them, there'll probably be 10 movies vying for those positions. And before they even vie for those positions, they got to shoot the project. So you can put that on your resume. If there's
Yeah.
nothing else, you can go to YouTube. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
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 So it'll get out there. So definitely a great time to build your resume. I know when I lived in LA and I needed to build my resume, I was doing student films, independent films,
Hmm.
and trailers and stuff like that. So, but that was LA, and that was it was a plethora of work. When I got back to Virginia back in '07, it was more or less having to network to find the work. Because there wasn't as many people in it today as it was. There wasn't as many people in it then as it is now.
Right.
So you really had to network 15 years ago to find the work in a regional hub. So yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I heard too. Obviously, we met through networking people as well.
Yeah.
That it really is. It's still networking.
Right.
To is a lot to do with it. But so when you're picking your roles, then with all these options that are out there, how do you pick what roles that you want to go for?
Well, I do look at a couple things before I even submit, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. I look at the scale. I look at how much they're paying. I look at where it's at. I look at how much of my time is going to be utilized. I look at do I even fit the specs. Um, you know, uh, so those are kind of the things I look for. Um, and then is the production going to be quality? Will eyeballs get on this project? So
Hmm.
those are the kind of things I'm looking at. If I'm somebody who's used to getting $1,000 per role, those are the kind of things I'm looking at if I want to do an independent project. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now let's say it's a union project. I'm more or less right now trying to build my resume with that. So there's a difference. So I'm taking roles based on whether it's a major project. Something that I could put on my resume that looks good.
Right.
Um, but let's say I'm independent. I'm not union or anything, and I've taken this as my career as a non-union or FI Corps. I think distance has to be a factor. Um, maybe some kind of pay, maybe a couple hundred a day,
Right.
if anything. Now, if you're just building your resume, you'll be good going unpaid because you're trying to build your resume and get experience. So that's still cool. I did that. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
did that when I was in LA. I did that and when I was in West Virginia. Going to West Virginia.
Right.
I did it for free because I was trying to build my resume, get experience, and then transition that resume into union work. So that's kind of how that worked.
Yeah.
But those are the
Now,
things I look for.
yeah. Now, do you with being part of SAG, is there stipulations for you going to non-union productions?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, they don't really. What's crazy? They don't really go after people like me because I don't have a name, and it won't make them look bad. But if I was George Clooney, somebody like that working a non-union project, they definitely have a big problem with it. They definitely have a big problem with it. But and again, I'm not out here advocating for union members to go do non-union work at all.
Right.
So take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We are working on a movie that we're planning on. We were supposed to do this year, but we're doing next year. And
Mhm.
we are learning about the paperwork of hiring a SAG actor and what all
Yeah.
that entails.
It's a lot of paperwork. I know when I first shot a pilot presentation I wanted to go union with, this was 10 years ago. And there was a ton of paperwork. Ton of paperwork. I had to have my own production company. I had to have a fully written script. So you got to have a fully written script. You got to promise to shoot it, or because they could ask you for a copy of the film. Like
Mm,
they might play hardball and say, "Hey, you Tab Hartley to all these people, or you're doing this for Tab Hartley. We want to see this project that you're putting out to make sure you're just not shamming us." So there's that. You got to have one member be SAG before you shoot a union production, going from never having done so before. Um, yeah, it's leg work, and you got to want it if that makes sense.
oh yeah.
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 So.
Yeah. We've been toying with that as our production team. I've been
Mhm.
looking at from what I do with the podcast, stuff like that, to become a SAG writer. The only
Yeah.
credential I have left is like
Uh,
as a podcaster, I need like 200 reviews in Apple Podcasts. That's the last
oh
step I
wow.
need.
I didn't know that. So you want to make the podcast SAG after podcast?
I'm able to apply for SAG as a writer with the podcast
Oh,
and the
okay.
shows that I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah.
So it'd be interesting. I don't know if that'll happen, but it's something I'm toying with right now. But
All right. Yeah. I mean, shoot. Get a pension and health, man.
there you go.
Yeah.
Um, but I, going through your credits and your acting reels stuff like that, you work with Marcus Lawrence a lot. It seems like.
Yeah, that's my guy. That is my guy. I work with him on several projects. I work
Mhm.
with him on the Mice and Men play. I work with him on that. He played Curly.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, so I played opposite him in that. Um, I played with him in a short film that was shot in the West Virginia area. Matter of fact, we did a short film on that called Perspective. We did a feature film called Violent Karma. Uh, so I've done three projects there. And then we did the TV show Shotgun Mythos.
Hmm.
He was the star of that show, and I had a guest star role, so that's four. Then we shot an independent movie called Your Pomegranate, which we both had the co-star and lead. We shot that in 2014 in Northern Virginia as well. And yeah, so we've done at least five projects together. That's my guy. Yeah,
So is that something that like I said, I was working with the Horror Dads production team, and then I got part of it, and I just end up working with the same people. And so when
yeah,
something comes up, they're like, "Hey, I know a guy for this." Is that kind of your working relationship then?
yeah. He does a lot more indie stuff than I do. I think I kind of branched off after Your Pomegranate,
Hmm.
and I went on to do commercials and movies and stuff that's on BT and in theaters and stuff. But he's etched out a career in the indie market for sure. As a matter of fact, he even did an HBO limited series, We Own the City, that was shot in Baltimore.
Oh,
He did
nice.
that. Yeah, he was in that. So he's dabbled into television work as well. So that's my guy though. He's my guy, 100 grand. So yeah.
Now, as we talked about independent and writing stuff, I know we talked when we talked last. You're starting to write some things. Are you still continuing that? Is there any plans for you to write short and continue to do stuff behind the camera as well as in front?
I'm putting together projects so when I do have leverage, I can kind of promote those projects. That way, let's say I do have an upcoming series that I've been cast as a series regular on, which will be put on either Netflix or Amazon Prime,
Ooh.
and they actually have distribution through Warner Brothers, and so we're in talk. We're in early talks about me being a series regular on the show. It's like a family positive show, and so after that series is done, maybe I could put my own out there after
Mm,
it's appeared on Netflix or Amazon Prime. So that's kind of what I'm doing with the writing that I have done now.
yeah,
That's kind of what I mean by I have some leverage. So
yeah. It's a daunting task. We are looking for. We made a pitch deck for our show that we're working on right now, and
okay,
it's going to
yeah,
be it's reality TV. Let's call it what it is.
yeah, it's okay.
It's yeah, it's something that we're doing that just through networking. Things are becoming possible. The doors are starting to open,
Yeah,
and it's and we like to support everyone that comes on our show too. So
I
if you ever
appreciate
need
that.
anything, let us know. We're always here. Like I said, I'm
Awesome.
Chicago area. Our ultimate goal for our movie side is to make a movie in each state, filmed in each state.
Okay.
About
If you touch down anywhere near Baltimore, DC, or Virginia, I'm your man. So give me a
awesome.
call.
All right, now Brian, we're coming to some of our wrap up questions because time flew by for me. We always have to
Okay.
ask though, what's your favorite scary movie?
Friday the 13th. Jason Voorhees. I I used to when I was in middle school, would go ride my bikes with one of my best friends during the summer, and we would go to the movie rental place. This is when they actually have movie houses, and they rented movies to you. So yeah, I'm that old, but we would ride our bikes to the video store and rent Friday the 13th, Faces of Death.
Yes.
Oh yeah, man. Had no business watching that at all. But we would rent those kind of movies, and yeah, so that was kind of my foray to it. You know, a little bit of Michael Myers, but a lot of it was Friday 1 through 5. I think at that time or 8.
Oh
So
yeah, that's what audience just asked. What part?
which part of Friday 13th? Oh man,
there's been like 11.
probably between my favorites probably between Friday the 13th Part 5 and Part 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you much about them, but I remember renting those. So yeah.
All right, and the other question that our good friend Teef keeps score of: practical or
Okay.
CGI?
You said practical or CGI?
Yep.
Oh God, give me practical. Give me the special effects makeup.
Yeah.
Give me the special effects makeup. Like if you have a great makeup artist, they'll make it look a little bit more gory than if you do CGI. So I prefer practical. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the opportunity of sitting in the makeup chair for an hour and a half a couple months ago
Oh
to get
gosh. Okay.
to get part of my head blown off. So,
Oh man.
I'm excited for that. It was a pain in the butt to take off because
Okay.
it was the liquid latex that had to dry and set, dry and
Oh
set.
yeah. Okay. All right.
So,
All right. Cool.
but luckily I have a bald head, so it works out.
See, I wouldn't know with that cap.
It's all bald under there.
Okay.
I wear the cap to stop the light from reflecting into the screen.
I got you.
All right, so Brian, if you can work in any existing IP or franchise, what would it be? What would be like your role that you'd want to do?
Oh gosh. I will probably like a walk on or a supporting in Bad Boys.
Oh,
That the Martin Lawrence and Will Smith movie. Horror, gosh, Smile. I want to do a Smile movie and get my little sign on right here.
mm-hmm.
But no, it's those are kind of two. Um, I don't know. I never given them much thought, but those kind of two movies, like some along those lines, I think would be pretty cool.
Now, would you want to do a Marvel or DC movie?
God, if I do a Marvel movie or a DC movie, I would like to play the villain. I would want to be the villain. Yeah. So I would want to be somebody who is hanging with the superhero. I know I'm gonna lose, but you're gonna be like, oh, okay, he's hanging with him at least. We're gonna give him some Thanos, give him some Thanos type energy or something. So that would be something I would look forward to. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that'd be fun too. Either the one and
yeah,
done or the long lasting ones that come back after like 15 years.
yeah, yeah.
All right, Brian. So, any advice for anyone getting into the field of acting?
Just know it's a numbers game, as you heard earlier. It's a numbers game. When you're submitting for auditions, just be prepared. Be as well prepared as you can to put on your best performance. Because everything now is self tape. I'm pretty
Mm-hmm.
sure your buddy who had the 2,000 submissions. I'm pretty sure he didn't call everybody into an open call
No.
or into the casting office. So I'm pretty sure you had a self tape submission. So be prepared to do it yourself when it comes to these auditions. Um, yeah, this numbers game, man.
Mm-hmm.
Just plug away. Um, yeah, just keep grinding, and
Awesome.
eventually, it may be where you want to put on your own project. So I would I would add to my wheelhouse of writing or directing or producing too. So that's my that's my advice.
Yeah, my wife got me for my birthday last month a how to write horror movie book. So
Okay.
maybe that'll help
Yeah,
me.
I'm pretty sure it will. Yeah.
So, all right, Brian, you ready for your random horror trivia question?
Yes.
All right. How did young Jason Voorhees meet his demise at Camp Crystal Lake?
God. Didn't he get put in the chains and get thrown at the bottom of the lake?
I mean, that's happened as an adult. Do you remember how he died as a kid?
He drowned.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, you got
Yeah.
it.
Hey, as you know, I watched it.
All right, Brian. So where can people find you, follow you, and see all the exciting news for upcoming works?
Yes, so you can find me at facebook.com/wanna lead. That's spelled WANNALEAD. You can also find me on imdb.me/Brian Elliott, two L's, two T's.
Awesome. Are you on Instagram at all or Twitter?
Not on the gram. You can probably follow me on Twitter, but I'm talking more about other stuff. So if you want to catch my movie stuff, yeah, facebook.com/wanna lead. That's the
Awesome.
best page. Yeah. Mhm.
Thank you very much, Brian, for coming on. And as always,
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm Gary. Follow us on all social media at Pod Out at Night, except TikTok because I'm an old man. And check out our new merch that we have coming out here soon. We have artists doing shirts and stuff like that. So we have more stuff in the works. I'm excited to showcase it when it comes out. And thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next time. And don't get lost in the void. Good night.